everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good night, wherever and whenever you are. I hope you're doing better than me. If you're new, hi. If you're not new, if you're subscribed, first of all, thank you. Second of all, this is the inevitable "this is where I've been" video that every creator makes at some point in their life. The difference is that I am not a large YouTuber. I don't have that large of a social media following. So I'm gonna try not make it too personal and too cringy. But I mean, that's what I do on this channel. I yap about my life and about mental health and nature and books that I'm reading and how I'm trying to take care of myself. So hopefully someone out there gets something from it. And usually when I preface a video with that, I get at least one lovely comment saying that they did get something out of it. So thank you to everyone who comments and shares a little bit of themselves and lets me reply to them and kind of gets that conversation going, because at the end of the day, we are just humans. We are just humans. So the world kind of sucks right now, and I am not going to go too far into it because I have always made a promise that this is not going to be anything political. I want this channel to be an escape for me and an escape for other people, and that doesn't mean that we are not paying attention to the world around us. It doesn't mean that we're escaping. You know, it's to get away from it forever. It's a 20-minute escape. Okay, I'm just gonna sit here and yap for 20 minutes, and maybe we'll feel a little less alone and a little less like we're alone in this world that we're in right now, because it's really rough. The long story short is that my hours at work got cut, which you might be thinking, oh, that means you had a lot of time to make YouTube videos, and you didn't. My cat, my dear elderly cat, also got sick. He started to get sick at the end of January, and it kind of has been, it went downhill in January to the point where in February I was like, okay, I have to take him. I have to figure out what's going on. Really stressful news, a lot of money, trying to figure out what the best solution was, going to different vets. Without going too much into detail, guys, if you have only taken your animal to one vet and they tell you something extremely upsetting, or they're not, I mean, this goes with, I guess, human doctors too. If they're not being transparent with you, if you're trying to ask questions to figure out what all of the options are, and they're very dead set on one solution that is not a very positive one, or if there's a doctor refusing, or a veterinarian refusing to do any tests, take them somewhere else. Take them to a different place. Ask your friends and family, coworkers, where they take their animals or where they go to the doctor, because we deserve to be listened to as humans and as pet owners. So that was extremely stressful, to be told extremely upsetting news and also be told there's nothing that can be done about it. To then take him to a different vet and hear, yes, this upsetting news I think is true, but here's what else we can do. Here are all your options. Here's all of the information. Like, I'm not using the word now, but the first vet I took my cat to didn't even use the word of what they thought was wrong with him. They danced around the subject. I had to request the pet files or the medical records to be able to even know what they thought was wrong. So that's also a red flag. And I've moved around a lot, right? Like, I moved across the country last year, so I had only been to this vet a couple of times. So granted, they didn't know his entire history and whatever. Anyway, so very upsetting. A lot of money and time went into trying to figure out if my cat was okay. And then with the reduction of hours, it just got extremely stressful. I got extremely down. Mental health was not great, and I was having, if I'm being extremely honest with you, I was having anxiety attacks, like anxiety attacks, like full on, not exaggerating, anxiety attacks 2 or 3 times a week. And I'm someone who has had a difficult upbringing, but I've never been diagnosed with anxiety. I've been diagnosed with CPTSD, which anxiety can be a symptom of that. But I've never really experienced anxiety or depression on like an everyday debilitating scale. So wow, guys, I feel you if that's what you experience. Holy shit. I've always tried to be compassionate, and recognize that I don't, I'm not in everyone's brain, but it was bad. Like, wow. And so I finally looked at my boyfriend and was like, okay, I need to go to therapy. I cannot afford therapy. So then there was a lot of hard conversations about finances between partners, which is extremely weird to navigate if you've never had a healthy example of money. If you've never been in a long-term serious relationship before, it can be really hard and weird to navigate. How do I bring up this conversation? How do I make sure my partner feels heard, that I'm not stressing them out? But at the end of the day, we are partners. We're not married, but we're partners. We live together. Our finances somewhat affect each other. So those were some hard conversations, and I was able to get financial aid for therapy through BetterHelp, which you've probably heard 1,000,001 influencers talk about BetterHelp. So here is a completely unsponsored, nobody, real person review. BetterHelp is not for me. BetterHelp, if it's your first time ever having therapy, or like I said, if you've never had therapy before, if you're not really aware of how to talk about mental health, if you're starting at like ground zero with mental health, dude, try BetterHelp, give it a go. Even I think I did not give it its full go. I just kind of stuck with the assigned therapist that they originally assigned me. But your girl likes parts work therapy, and I really like internal family systems. I like EMDR. That's what works for me because I have a very logically minded brain. So what is it? I think it's like cognitive behavior. The thing where you try and change your thinking doesn't work for me. So eventually, after I gave it about a month and a half, I was going once a week. And it helped, I wasn't having anxiety attacks anymore. That was good. I started to realize I really need to take care of I feel like I say this in every video, right? Like, it is so important to prioritize yourself, your interests, your hobbies, your self-care time, to not, I'm sorry, I'm going to be one that says it, sit on your phone and scroll mindlessly or watch TV mindlessly. There is a difference between consuming content intentionally or with some thought process, brain awareness, versus scrolling mindlessly. And it's okay to give yourself a time limit, because a lot of social media right now is a reflection of all the shit that is happening in the world, and our brains can only take so much of that information in at once before we get overwhelmed and terrified. So I had to break up with my phone a little bit. I had to, thank God the weather was okay. I started to wonder if it was seasonal depression because the sun came out for a week and it was like I was a whole new person. I was fine. I was happy. I was so fulfilled all of a sudden. But I don't think it was just the sun. I think it's the fact that I was outside in nature. I think it was that I was sitting on the balcony doing nothing, but listening to the birds and contemplating my garden and what I wanted to do. I think it was the reading books. I read Iron Flame. I read Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. If you want to hear my thoughts, let me know. But so many people have given so many of their thoughts that you probably don't want to hear anymore. But yeah, so I guess that, to kind of circle back, the point of that is saying, like, yeah, sometimes we need to go back to therapy. Sometimes, you know, I was in therapy before I moved across the country. I really liked my therapist. I loved her. I loved her. She was such a good therapist. We meshed so well. The work that we were doing was life-changing, mind-altering, really good for me. And when I left to move across the country, I was in almost a euphoric state of excitement and positive, you know, yeah, I'm about to walk out and I have no idea what's going to happen and I'm going to go on this adventure. But it was like a very positive thing. I was looking forward to the new adventure. I was looking forward to the journey I was going to take. And then the journey got hard because when you move across the country, your entire security is wiped away. And I was doing really well handling it for a long time, but it is completely okay if you realize, actually, I need to go back. I need some support right now. I need help, especially if, yeah, your circumstances have changed. Like, I don't have, you know, my close friends aren't super close. My sisters are not right next to me if I need to go cry. My boyfriend has never had anyone talk to him about mental health, so it's one of those where, like, I can, especially with parts work, which I feel like is such a specific kind of method of therapy that some people think is kind of weird. Basically, I don't want to say compartmentalize. You kind of separate yourself into different parts, and your feelings are different parts, and you interact with them as if they're like people. Not quite like personalities, but similarly. And it's basically a whole mindfuck once you realize that works. To kind of talk to your feelings as if it is a separate being or person that is not you. So yeah, it's okay to realize that actually you need to go back, and like, especially with finances and cat and work not going exactly how I want, and you know, I needed someone to look me in the face and say, how long ago did you move? A year? You're doing pretty well for a year. Like, it's gonna take longer than that. It's gonna take longer than that, especially when you are such a person that's like connected to nature, and you know, it takes so much time to build those relationships. We don't really think about the fact that we grew up where we grew up, and we had been there, for most of us, or at least for me, for a very long time. We stayed in the same place. Like, I had the same childhood house. My parents still lived there. The forest behind my house is still there, and it has changed a lot over the years, but ultimately it's the same, and the same places that I used to roam are still there, practically untouched. I think one of the trees is dying, which makes me cry to think about. But I did that effortlessly, but it took, 16 years? 15 years of me going out and playing in that forest by myself and exploring it and blah, 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 blah. And now I'm in this place where it's a completely different landscape, and I don't know any of the words to any of the wildflowers. Like, of course it's going to take time. Of course it's okay to need that little bit of extra help and support. And I will say BetterHelp does have really good financial aid, especially if you don't accept their first offer, if you just let it sit a little longer. And you can switch therapists on BetterHelp. I just found a local one that I think is going to be really great in continuing that parts work that I was already doing. So all of that, like I said, is to say sometimes you need extra help. Sometimes you need extra support. Sometimes you need, like, again, it wasn't necessarily that my therapist was helpful, at least the one on BetterHelp. She, at the end of the day, she really was not that helpful. But there was someone once a week saying, okay, what are you going to do for yourself this week? What is something hard that happened this week? Let's talk about it. Or what can you do to make your life easier or happier? Like, sometimes you just need that. You need one person to say, what are you going to do for yourself this week? What is one act of self-care? What are you going to do for fun? Those were the two questions she would ask me, is what are you going to do for fun this week? And what's one thing you're going to do to take care of yourself this week? Because sometimes those are different. And yeah, it's just that. So it was a lot of allowing myself time to just be in my bad emotions. If anyone ever tells you, like, don't worry about it, it's fine, or what I was experiencing is so many people now are like, oh, you're 25, you're still young, like, you have so much time to figure it out. And it's like, I do, you're not wrong, but at the moment it feels like I'm drowning, and you telling me, oh, it'll all work out, while true, does not make me feel like I am not drowning. So what makes me feel like I'm not drowning is stepping away from my phone. It is trying to prioritize quality time. It is taking risks and inviting coworkers to hang out and trying to do the whole friend thing. It is starting a new series on my Instagram about what I did this week instead of spending money, because my finances are not the best right now, but I still deserve to have fun. And a lot of cool things have come out of me trying not to spend money. You can follow me on Instagram if you want to see those weekly, bi-weekly updates. I'm trying to do them once a week, but sometimes I don't do a lot. So I don't know, maybe I'll make them a story thing or whatever, but like a lot comes out of that when you're trying not to spend money, and when you look around and notice that a lot of people around you are trying to spend less money because the economy sucks, and finding community in that. Like, I made a coworker bread. I tried a new bread recipe. I dropped it off at her house at like 11 o'clock at night, and I looked at her and I said, I've never tried this bread recipe. I hope it's good. And she cut off a slice right there and ate it and said, oh my God, I have to go wake up my husband and he has to try this right now. And so like I made her bread, and she didn't have to give me anything in return. And it was just fun to do that activity of trying a new recipe. Even, it's just me and my boyfriend. I can't eat every single creation. I did go and make myself another loaf of bread because she said it was so good. I had to try it myself, and it was delicious, and I'm gonna make more. I'm gonna do that thing where I fiddle with recipes now. Fiddle with things, by the way, guys. If you get a recipe on Pinterest and you don't like it, make it again, but make a change. Usually I have to add a little bit of brown sugar, especially if it is to something sweet. Or I swap out the white sugar with brown sugar. That usually makes life better. Doing brown butter, or using butter instead of... If you get boxed brownies, by the way, this is a life hack. If you get boxed brownies, whatever it calls for in vegetable oil, swap it for melted butter. Oh, so much better. Anyway, and then I reread the books that I've written. Someone is supposed to be beta reading the first one, but I binge read the whole entire series that I wrote, because I'm me and I'm obsessive with my characters. So yes, I've written not only the trilogy from one character's perspective, but also from another. So I basically read the equivalent of 6 books in like a week. But they're mine, they're my babies, and sometimes you just need to do that. You need to go back to your comfort books. I reread the Cruel Prince series. I really needed a mentor like Jude growing up. I wish I had read those books when I was younger, because I needed a character like Jude. And while rereading those books, I remembered, right, because as authors and as writers and as artists, we bleed into everything that we do. A piece of our soul is in every little piece that we've created. And so little secrets get stuck in there sometimes. And I have a character who is like a big movie buff, and not like a film nerd movie buff, but just like a guy who likes to watch movies and that's how he spends his quality time with his friends and his family. And I was like, right, that came from me always wanting to watch movies with friends and family and no one really wanting to watch them with me. Why don't I just do that by myself? Especially because there's a lot of movies that me and my boyfriend want to watch together, but also some movies that he's not interested in at all, i.e. Little Women. I've never seen that. I would love to see that. He doesn't care. I watched Poor Things. That was a weird one. Not my cup of tea. I do like weird things, but that was a little graphic for me. Just be forewarned if you watch that. And then on my bingo card, I don't know if you guys know, at the beginning of like 2025, everyone was doing bingo cards for their years instead of like New Year's resolutions. It was like a bingo card of all the fun things I wanted to do. And I left a few of mine blank. But I had things like read 30 new books, which is usually a goal I have every year. And so I added watch 20 new movies to mine. I have a feeling I'm going to surpass that because I've been watching 1 to 2 a week because my boyfriend is like so on board with this, and he's like, wait, girl, I've got a list too, let's go. So stuff like that. And you might think like, oh, that costs money, right? You have to go to the movie theater, you have to rent movies. The library I discovered, which I feel like I knew deep down subconsciously, that the library lets you rent movies out, but for some reason it never clicked. But I've been renting movies from the library. It's completely free. They usually have a shorter loan time than books, I'm noticing, but it's free. You know, like I don't have to go on my Xbox and spend like $4 a movie, or like I don't have to pay for a subscription service, even though my boyfriend's parents are so very kind and will let us borrow theirs whenever we need or want. But it's been great to support local libraries and get some movies for free and be able to do so many things that are new and add novelty to life and add something to talk about with coworkers and friends and family that isn't gossip. I went on a hike with a couple of girls and it was so refreshing because no one gossiped, and we even talked about how gossiping is not the best and like not always fun, and there's a difference between gossiping and like catching up with other people and staying up to date. There's a difference. So refreshing. But like I said, if you want to be part of that, if you want to learn all the ways that I'm doing things for free or by spending a lot less money than typically you would have, go ahead and follow me on Instagram. And it'll be a good time. Sorry, I'm checking my notes because I have talking points. I think I have like 3 more minutes left to talk. But I've pretty much talked about everything I've wanted to. So I guess it's time to ask you how you are, right? Getting in the bad habit of always talking about myself. But I had a Reiki session. If you guys want to hear about my Reiki session, please let me know. I am a pretty spiritual person, and I like talking about spirituality. I've thought about doing once a week tarot card, pick a card readings on this channel, but I can barely post 1 video a week, so maybe I shouldn't push myself to do 2. But we're working on it. Life is a work in progress, and we got this. And it's hard right now. If it's hard for you mentally, if it's hard for you financially, I feel you. I feel you on a level that I have never felt people before. You're not alone. Honestly, that was the biggest message that came out of my Reiki session too, is like, I'm not alone. And we have to be there for one another. Like, being able to help that family in need, like I made bread for them. I'm going to give them my cat food because my cat is no longer eating dry food, but I've got a huge bag. And yes, I could sell it on Facebook Marketplace, try and get a few coins back. But if there's a family in need and their cat eats the same food or isn't picky, why would I not go support that family? Why would I not build that community? And yeah, so I think it's a really big time to come together and to figure out how to do things with each other that do not support the things that we no longer want to support, and that is the most political I'll get on this channel, of just saying, like, can we just start caring about each other? Can we start like trying to form communities again? Because life will be much better if we do that. But I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you have a lovely day, night, afternoon, morning, wherever and whenever you are, because you 100% deserve it. And hopefully I'll see you next week, if not the week after that. Bye, guys.